President Biden throwing unity out the window and running full speed ahead with a divisive midterm strategy, saying MAGA Republicans threaten our democracy while calling out the philosophy as semi-fascism, whatever that means. It signals a more aggressive approach as Biden gets ready to embark on a nationwide travel blitz. Apparently, it's going to be a blitz. 71 days until Election Day. The Democratic National Committee chair, he seems to be on board.
President Biden said we should not view each other as adversaries in this country, but as neighbors, and we should treat each other with dignity and respect. How does semi-fascism as a label for the Republican Party fit with that inaugural address?
The one thing that President Joe Biden has always been consistent. And he has always been somebody who does what my grandfather used to do, which is speak it plain.
Mr. Chairman, you embrace the rhetoric semi-fascism to describe the Republican Party.
Well, it's not about the embracing. It's calling what it is, what it is.
Biden's new tone is not sitting well with New Hampshire's usually reserved Republican governor.
He's trying to stir up this anti-Republican sentiment right before the election. It's horribly inappropriate. It's insulting, and people should be insulted by it, and he should apologize.
And watch this. Even the liberal media is questioning the tactic.
There's no backpedaling on this. It's clear that there's a more aggressive strategy. It fires up Democrats. It juices up the base because they want to see him be more aggressive on that. But it also does, it does become problematic because, this is a guy who said he wanted to be a unifier.
So, Harold, 2 weeks ago, the president signed the Inflation Reduction Act to much fanfare. And they were feeling a little momentum. Gas prices had started to tick down. And then he decided to basically bail out several million people with their student loans. And he topped it off with this comment about MAGA Republicans being semi-fascist. So that obviously was a strategy. And now everybody on the Democratic side is using this language. Did they have some focus group that said this is going to be a real winner?
I don't know. First, it's good to be back around the table. And Dana, you said something a week ago, I think it was about a week ago, right after the Inflation Reduction Act was signed. You said if you were advising the president, you don't know why he would go back to, I think he was in South Carolina or Delaware.
Yeah.
He should have gone on the road and promoted it. I think that's what they should have done. And I think it would have allowed for a different kind of entry into the political season. I mean, we're 2 months away. I think President Biden's been on the receiving end over the last few months of some pretty interesting verbal attacks and other characterizations of his presidency. And he's going to give a little bit back. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised by that. I think, you think about presidents in the past. President Obama was called a socialist, a terrorist. He was called someone who wasn't born in the United States, even after he'd served 4 years and 8 years in the presidency. So this is a little bit politics. And now, this does go against the brand because President Biden, when he was running, said he wanted to unite. I thought he gave one of the great speeches when his inaugural address, which really accentuated and amplified all of these points. But here we are in this season, and it's probably going to get a little messier. We've had a few Republicans say things negative about President Trump. And one thing is for certain, Judge, that President Biden has looked at. I can feel my friend's incredible energy of love and unity coming towards me. One of the things that we found, the polling data shows us, is that the only person who is more divisive on a national level than President Biden is former President Trump. So we shouldn't be surprised that the parties are going to try to use a little bit of this as they get going. But we'll see how it fares. Yeah. He may be punished for this because he wanted to be a unifier. Or, as I think was Peter Alexander in one of the clips said, he could very well energize Democrats. As we know, midterms are about energizing your base.
Is this his deplorables moment, Judge?
It clearly is. But Peter Alexander, just to follow up on what Harold said this is a guy who said he wanted to be a unifier. That's Peter Alexander saying that. Look, what Joe Biden did was he started this rhetoric that was so insulting. He should remember 73 million or 74 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. He should also recognize that in these primaries before the midterms, Donald Trump's tap on the shoulder of a candidate was, for many of them, the winning nod that they needed. I think it's sheer stupidity to do that. But worse than that, this is hatred. Fascism is something that Americans hate. We connect it with World War II. My father fought in World War II, my grandfather as well. I mean, we connect that with people killing Americans, fighting for freedom. You don't do that because, hatred and this kind of rhetoric leads to violence. That's the way it is. Hate is hate. Hate leads to violence, and violence leads to retaliation. Now, the left may have decided they need to gin things up and they want to see Joe Biden get a little more excited, but 56% of the Democrats don't want Biden to run for re-election. So this is how the guy who apparently lied when he said he wanted to be the unifier and the adult in the room, this is how he's getting them ginned up. It's by hating the other side. That's not what we're talking about. And you know what? I'm tired, to be honest with you, of what they said about Obama. We're not talking about Obama. We're talking today about what Joe Biden called at least 75 million Americans who voted and a hell of a lot more who didn't.
The other thing is that as the head of the Democratic Party, he is giving basically the go-ahead to everybody else in the party to say similar things. Here is the Colorado Secretary of State, Jena Griswold. She said that she claimed that Americans could lose the right to vote within months if the Republicans win elections. Joey.
Yeah, well, you know, I live in Georgia, the home of Jim Crow 2.0, or as we like to call it, the biggest voter turnout ever in the state of Georgia. So it depends on how you want to look at it. Listen, if you're Republicans, I doubt a lot of liberals and Joe Biden supporters are watching this right now. I hope so. I hope you're learning. I hope you tune in and learn. But if not, listen, don't get outraged. Get the tape. Don't get offended. Be vindicated. He is showing you that his track record of saying racist things, incoherent things, divisive things is absolutely intact. Don't let him realize how bad it is. Let him continue to talk for the next several months, then make a bunch of commercials and roll them out in October and early November and win this primary or win this midterm and win it strong. This is a coherent plan that they've put together. This is their strategy. You back Trump candidates in the primaries, which we saw them do, to try to get the Trump candidates on the ballot. All right. Then you do this, create negative headlines by slow rolling the January 6th committee. Perhaps the Mar-a-Lago raid was a part of this. I don't know. That's phase two. And now is the phase where you take and you try to convince the country that simply being conservative is equivalent to every horrible thing they've ever said about President Trump. Yeah. And you try to put us all in one basket of deplorables.
Well, I think we're also at a phase where the operative question, Jimmy, is what won't Biden do or say to get a few more far-left voters energized?
I don't think anything is beneath him. And let's be clear, none of us really took him seriously when he said he wanted to unite the country. Most days he can't unite enough words to form a complete sentence, if we're being honest. But it's disgusting because we've never seen an attack on the voter. Okay, the Hillary attack was something she didn't want to get out. We all knew she felt that way, but she wasn't actually out at a public event when that came out of her mouth. And for all the divisiveness for Trump, he was attacking media, he was attacking his opponents. He wasn't attacking the people. And I think what this speaks to, heading into the midterms, is a lack of a deliverable. There's nothing they can say to voters that indicates their life is better off now than it was 2 years ago, which is why instead you're not getting what they did on inflation or what they did with the border, because it's terrible. So instead you're getting ultra MAGA, mega MAGA, and I can't believe it's not MAGA because they don't know where to go. I mean, would you run on this record? What do you knock on the door and say? Hey, if you vote for us, inflation will be higher. You like fentanyl overdose deaths? You're in luck. It's terrible.
So it was the way for them to get on offense and be offensive.
It is very offensive, and it's offensive to me because I talk to these MAGA, folks on the radio every day. I meet them at comedy events. They're the nicest people in the world. They don't care about race. They don't care about rights. They don't want to take away your rights. They just want to make a little money and drink a lot of beer. That's who they are.
And see you at the comedy show.
Hey, girl, they better.
All right, I'm sure Reno is still reeling from that performance over the weekend.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.